There it is. There's the chime that says, ding, I'm in my own house. I just think it's charming. So they let you know when you're home.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's phenomenal to me. Yes. All right. Welcome, everybody, to today's Eat and Greet. Man, today feels like a special one because we're doing it on the new moon. Like, I don't know, those ones always just feel special. Like, yeah, we're going to really talk about something good. Not that we don't ever, but this one, I don't know. I'm just feeling a little bit more in the feels of it today. So welcome, everybody. Hopefully we give you something today that is worth your time and investment and coming to hang out with us. So a little bit of housekeeping. The solstice gifts are still up. They're still available. You can make sure you check those out in the description box down below. And any and everything, including resources, links to Adam, his work, all of that will be in the description box down below. So you can make sure you check that out. And we fell out on Friday, but Linda will be back this Wednesday and we'll do the second part of our talk there as well. So you can keep your eyes peeled for that also. Adam, welcome. Welcome to the channel.
It's my privilege to be here with you and everyone. Really, it's a privilege.
I love it. I love that I reached out and we had kind of a loose connection and then we got to sit with each other for a little bit and deepen that, I felt like.
Yeah, hi, how are you? Or who are you? I've done a number of those over my career. The one with you, man, that one was far and above. That one's to be remembered. That was like we connected and got to know, really, I feel like anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did some good soul gazing, looking behind the veil immediately. It was brilliant, I thought. So I'm really grateful to have you here. And I know we talked about this a little bit before, but man, I want you to share yourself with us today. Tell us who you are. What are you doing out there? Because you could genuinely be someone's next teacher. And I want them to know that you're here.
Thank you very much, Stormie. So, hello everyone. I just want to let you know the thing that sold me on this to do this show with Stormie today is when she and I were hanging out just one-on-one, meeting each other. She immediately asked me really good question about myself. And when I asked her a good question about herself, man, she didn't hold back. She just said what it is for her. Doesn't mean it's the be all end all truth, but right now in her life, this is her truth. And she's sticking by it until her heart, her spirit, her mind, whatever shows her otherwise. And I was like, whatever show you got, you are a rare person. I'm comfortable. Let's go and do this thing. So I'm jazzed to be here.
Yes.
I remember that, Stormie. So I have a brand called Soulsign, and what it basically refers to is through astrology, which is one of the pillars of my work, also a very gentle and very deep breath-based meditation. Number 2 is the second pillar. And the third is a pretty radical approach to living and creating your life and healing the stuff that we are all working on healing, that is based in keeping your heart open no matter what. No matter what your mind's screaming, you keep your heart open. That's the third pillar. So what we talk about in the work is the soul sign is based on sky, heart, and breath. Those 3 pillars, if you got those happening in your life in whatever way that's really meaningful for you, you're good, because you will have the resilience to admit that you don't know what the heck you're doing in any given situation, because sometimes that's the real problem we get into. We get into the problem that we have to know. We got to be the boss man or boss lady. We got to avoid at all costs not knowing and the possibility of making a mistake. That's the mistake. From this point forward on the planet, at least as I see it, our strength is in choosing not to know. It doesn't mean giving up all the life wisdom we've gotten. It means not going to a kind of arrogant position that we're the expert kind of thing. We always want to increase the ability to learn, to grow, to be wrong with an open heart. So this is a good way, Stormie. I always like to talk about my work, or a lead into it, because this is really kind of the alchemical kind of orientation to it. So if someone finds my work and is like, man, your astrology is the bomb. How are you able to do that stuff with the nodes or with Mars, Venus, as we're going to talk about today? Chiron, I do a lot with Chiron, and also the sky, which I'll talk about in a moment. It's all because I am constantly making sure and checking myself that I am not starting to rigidify into a kind of, oh, I know that. Yeah, I got that. Like, done. No, you want to totally own your mastery, your gifts, what you've worked maybe 5, 10, 20 years for. And you sit in that seat inside of yourself and in your life. You own that authority. But the moment that something else new comes around that starts to challenge that, don't be too quick to kick it out just because you think you already know. Stay open, stay available. That sometimes is the edge that we all need. And could really avoid a lot of stuff. Like all the counseling I've done probably since 2004, maybe a couple thousand people, the lesson that I hear coming out of my mouth more frequently than everything else is, what were you assuming then?
Mm-hmm.
What were you subconscious of? What were you not willing to admit about yourself yet then that you are now? Right? Those kinds of questions. Because astrology, Stormie, you and I both know, astrology is such an easy trap for our pride and our arrogance to come in and say, well, I'm an astrologer. I know stuff that no one else knows, and they're going to pay me for it, blah, 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 and all that. Astrologers should be the most humble people on the planet, I believe. We should be walking around looking for how we can serve, how we can help, not giving away ourselves, not undercharging, self-respect, but also in your heart, really making sure that when you're listening to someone, you're really listening to them.
Sure.
That's the key. So my astrology in terms of the 3 pillars, the sky part, I do my own version of evolutionary astrology. I have 2 books all about that, which basically serve as the textbooks for my certification program. People can study with me. They can also study with my assistant, who is her own amazing, very intuitive astrologer, Andrea Michelle, or they can do it on their own. They can study, it's a self-guided course. And it comes with all 3 books as part of that course, 4 modules, all kinds of stuff you can also pick and choose individual classes if you want to shore up on elements, or you want to go deeper into Pluto, or you want to really look at more deeply at the Chiron, whatever, you can do all that. And more recently, probably around 2014, 13, I got my butt bit by the bug of the sky. Let me explain that. If you're listening to this interview with Stormie and I here, and you've never heard of this, I hope this turns you on.
Yes,
when
please
we're doing
listen.
astrology these days, when we're doing astrology these days, I want to tell you, with love and respect, you are ignorant of the sky. For example, look at your chart. Look at the chart that you're looking at for your next client. Look at that chart and tell me, was Mars fast or slow on that chart? So now let's take Mars. Mars was in detriment, but he was really fast, which Mars likes to be. He was really high in the sky, which Mars likes to be, dominate things, right? So he was high, bright, and fast, yet he's in his fall or his detriment. In other words, not in a happy place for him, not an easy place for Mars to operate in. You see how these other factors that would mitigate or reduce the negative sign position of Mars, we don't learn that. Very few schools today teach that. A couple of buddies of mine are masters at it. Gary Caton, Julene Lewis, who does, I don't know how anyone has the brain for this. She does Western and Vedic. She knows both. Like, what? And of course, Gemini Brett, brilliant astrologer. And all the people under Daniel and Kalen's School of Shamanic Astrology. Those, and then a few Europeans, Ruben Kolev and a few others. We are pretty much the few that really understand the sky. This pissed me off so much in 2013 that I called Gary and Julene. I said, guys, It's time to start having conferences about the sky in astrology, not just the chart. So we put together the first Sky Astrology Conference. It was in the Bahamas. It was a huge success. We did it again a couple of years later at an awesome hot springs place in Colorado. And that was the last time. We were going to do it this year, but for obvious reasons, 2020, year zero, we decided not to do it. We'll probably be putting it together again. But in the meantime, you can visit all those astrologers that I just mentioned, and you can find information about how to understand and identify a planet's sky position. So real quickly, the chart shows us sign, house, aspects, dignity, things like that. That comes from a couple thousand-year-old tradition. The sky factors of a planet, something I coined, the sky factors of a planet include distance from the sun, just by degrees, brightness, speed, sky height. Is the planet visible or invisible? If visible, was it morning or evening, or midnight star? Latitude, along with declination. These factors are not just more stuff to study. So if you just like hate studying, this is not just, oh, study more. This will actually round out your understanding of the sky. It's like taking a planet that you've learned in astrology on the chart, and you realize when you start to study the sky factors of the planet, you start to be able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas most of the time, you're just looking at that planet on a round chart wheel, or if you're Vedic, on the square chart diagram. Now you start to get three-dimensional. Do you understand? You start to get a sense of, was this planet, what was its trend? Was it fat? Was it speeding up, slowing down? What was it speeding up towards? Things like that. And now you start to become what I call intimate. It's just like meeting a person. You have an old friend, you get together for lunch, you're sitting down over lunch, you look at them, you go, God, you look tired. How do you know that? You just met them. I mean, because you haven't just met them. You've known them for years. It's the same thing with the planets, guys. You can really go deeper into the planets and get to know their quality on that chart, whether it's birth chart, it's an horary chart, electional chart, it's a relationship synastry thing, whatever you want to do. Sky factors are like the secret sauce of the future of astrology. I really believe that. And for that reason, so I've been lecturing on this for years now, and there's many videos of my slide deck and presentation live, or audios with the slide deck on my site that people can get to, for example, the sky, just to learn about the sky factors and how to read them. And then in other ones, I apply the sky factors to, like for us today, Venus and Mars. I apply the sky factors to Venus. So Venus has a very unique set of variables, astronomically speaking, that directly affect the strength or weakness of her astrological signatures. Okay, different than, let's say, Mars or Jupiter or Saturn, because they're outer planets. They're beyond Earth. The inners, Mercury and Venus, have their own unique shape, their own unique language, and how they appear and disappear. So how they communicate that, how Venus and Mercury reveal themselves to us, thus us to ourselves on our birth chart, is very different than how Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, blah, 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 reveal themselves to ourselves on our chart. I know it's a lot. I'm just kind of like, blah.
No, it's so brilliant. I love that we're talking about this, because this is something that we did talk about. This became my campaign just about last year, where I was so afraid that I wasn't a strong astrologer, not because I don't know my technique, but because I was like, I don't really know the sky. And all I had to do was ask. And then all three of these men showed up right in the similar place. So it is my thing now where I'm like, it's okay. Many of us did not start off with looking at the sky. So it's okay to come, put the little tail behind the legs, open heart, and say, please teach me the sky.
Exactly.
Sky teachers are available. So
Totally,
if
they
that's
are.
you, come on out.
Absolutely.
Come on out.
I don't know why, Stormie, but as you're saying this, I'm just inspired to also say, every myth that is astrologically sourced or based, or is often quoted by astrologers, whether it's from the Greek pantheon, the Roman, the European, the Chaldeans, the Mesopotamians, the Islamic cultures, whatever it is, sky-based astrology cultures, what they're seeing up there, this is sometimes hard for modern people to really grok, but take this in. What they're seeing night after night, morning after morning of direct observation is not a symbol for the God. That light that today is starting to look brighter than it did last week, that is the message of the God. It was only later, maybe 2, 3, 4,000 years ago, that in the increasing evolution of collective human consciousness, did we start to go, that is a metaphor. It's a symbol for something else.
Right.
But the origin of actual astrology, even if you practice chart-only astrology, the origin of your, I call it a scientific art, the origin of our scientific art of astrology is direct experience with the changing lights night after night, morning after morning. It's not just a study of human character, it's literally becoming intimate with the changing phenomena of the earth life, being an earthling, being a human being. And if you can really get that, like, not just in the words I'm saying and the concepts in your mind, if you can take that into your body, man, that will so start to open you up. And you'll find there's like a thirst, there's like a hunger. Wait. I love astrology, but I don't know any about this. I demand to learn more. I want to know at least enough so I can orient to it, and then I'll see if I want to go deeper or not.
Yes.
I have been had the sincere pleasure of being in classes talking about sky astrology, sky factors, talking about speed, for example, brightness, and what brightness correlates with, and all that stuff, and watching in the audience some people I know personally are astrologers for 20, 30 years, professional practices, good internet presence, several books, and they're going like this, with listening to this.
Mm-hmm.
Like this. I've been contacted by now good friends of mine, some of the most famous astrologers on the planet today, saying, Adam, I need you to teach me this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not special. The other astrologers I mentioned, we're not special. We just have a hunger and a thirst for this. We have a passion for it, and we want to turn other people onto it so that you guys can find your path with what I call sky astrology, understanding the movements, not just as concepts and like animated things on a flat computer screen, but actually like walking it and feeling it and dancing it and moving it, singing it even. I'm in another area of my work, I'm a sound healer. So I use my voice. I play didgeridoo for healing, and I use some bowls and some tuning forks. And in that whole, it's not about just getting the sound into you and then going on a journey into your upper body. It's about staying in the body and getting all these sound frequencies in so you could be a better human being living and improving human society. So that's really what it's about. That's really what it's about.
Which is just magical. It just
is.
changes. I can tell the shift from the beginning of the year when I started interacting with the sky to even the reports that I did after that, and watching, looking, having somebody say, look here at Venus, watch what she's doing, and feeling a different message come through and saying, oh, okay, yeah, this could represent money, but I think at this time for most of us, Venus is asking for this. And that is a different embodied experience that it was okay for me not to have until I had it. Because when the awakening came on, then it was time to absorb the sky.
I love what you're saying, Stormie, because that, to me, that's being of service to our clients. If you can do that for yourself, everybody, if you can learn to do that for yourself, you know what, lean into, yeah, it's about money, but there's also something else that might be here. And then basically develop that muscle, that listening muscle, man, you're going to be of such more service to your clients. And you know what that means? Your clients are going to become repeat clients, and they're going to start telling their friends. I had this reading, and it wasn't like a reading I normally get, man. This person was really saying stuff that really stuck with me and was accurate. That's what it does. See, we are too much two-dimensionalized.
Sure.
Not just astrologers, but like in society, people. Yeah. Astrology is a way to come out of our heads and come back into our bodies. It really is.
Yeah. We've been put under the message for 2020 to come home, come back to the body, come home to figure out everything else.
Yes,
So
totally.
no time like the present, my friends, to study the sky. I mean, it's been out there anyway, so let's just get into it, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
This is awesome. I just want to share this with you before we jump into your talk. But
Yeah.
we had some people down here when you said you talked about the nodes. They were like, "Oh, we think Adam just whispered he wants to come back and talk about the nodes." So you've already been invited back. It's a good start. That's a good start.
I've never heard that. Projecting onto someone's false whisper. That's a good one. I'm gonna have to remember. Whoever said that, you are sharp. I like you.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah, so they're real good about saying, "Yep, we want these people back or not." So you've been invited back. There you have it.
This is my notes book. It's not that big, but it's small font, and there's a lot of packed stuff in there. There's a lot of stuff about the nodes. In brief, for me, the nodes are the bookend, the entire framework of the entire chart. You want to look at your Saturn Moon complex? Stop.
Look at the
Find out what the nodes and their rulers are doing, and then go into the Saturn Moon complex. You want to find out why you have Aquarius rising and you can't figure yourself out. No one else can figure you out, but for you it's so obvious. Stop. Start with the nodes. Frame your whole chart with the nodes.
Yes. Yes. The rest is the toolkit
Exactly.
to do the nodal work.
Totally. It's the nodal work, man. You know what? Funny. I have a friend who's Vedic teacher. Ironically, he and I had exchanged emails years ago, but I have a friend whose Vedic teacher is a very, very well-known Vedic astrologer in that community. I'm not part of that community at all. And when I was talking to this friend, he was asking me questions about Western, and I basically gave him this spiel about the nodes. And he said, "You know what? My teacher, like a year ago, told me, basically, you want to be able to read the chart with nothing on it but the nodes."
Yeah.
And their dispositors. And I could not agree more. And that's coming from someone who's a completely different cultural use of astrology. Very different definitions of the planets in some cases. Very different meanings of aspects. Okay. And we're coming to the same conclusion. That means that what I'm saying there and what he's saying there and what Stormie's saying, that transcends culture. That transcends this planet is this, not that. It goes beyond that. It's deeper than that. That's why the nodes are so important.
That's brilliant. So somebody just asked what your node book is called.
The Soul's Desire and the Evolution of Identity.
Brilliant. There you go. And we'll make sure there's a link to all of Adam's stuff in the description box so you can check it out there too.
Cool.
So today, though, we're going to take a trip up to the sky and we're going to talk about Venus and Mars with the sun.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
First of all, let's talk about this. First of all, Venus and Mars. Just as background, so you know who you're listening to here. I've been learning from Venus and Mars since before I became an astrologer. Okay? So that's just the start here. I've been desiring to get closer with our immediate neighbors, Venus on the in, Mars on the out, for maybe even much of my conscious life. I'll share something with you guys. When I was about, I don't remember how old I was. I think I was either 8, 9, 10, or 11 or somewhere in there. There was a camping trip. My family, a few other families went on, and we were on the beach. We all camped on the beach one night, over a weekend. And one night, it was dark sky, new moon, or close to it. And I'm this little kid. I'm out underneath the sky. First time I ever had any even awareness of the sky. And everyone's falling asleep, or I'm starting to fall asleep. I'm kind of dozing out, and I suddenly wake up with a start, and I look up, and I swear, I mean, I'm just a kid, but I was immediately terrified. I was so afraid, like through and through me. Why? Because it was all of a sudden, it was like I could hear things. I could hear all these different streams, and it was too much for my ears. It was too much for my consciousness at the time. So I had to go sleep inside the tent. You know, I had to go in there and put some over my head and everything. I mean, that was when I was 8, 9. I mean, I didn't become an astrologer until later. You know, It wasn't like I founded it like 15. It was like, oh, this is it. So the sky, and especially Mars and Venus, I think that's really kind of where it started. At core, Mars and Venus for me represent the essential principle of energy leaving and energy returning. The action of leaving and the action of returning. Now, from where and to where, that's a matter of interpretation and scale or scope. But so Venus is it represents the feminine principle. We can call that being, just being who you are.
Mhm.
Mars, the principle of doingness, doing who you are. So the way I like to describe it is being what I am and doing who I am.
Mm.
Because that starts to show us any weak spots we have in the feminine or masculine principles. So if you're a really strong woman, is your strength coming from the feminine principle or is your strength coming from the masculine principle? It doesn't matter which one, as long as you're clear which one is your kind of battery. And then from that, you can then decide to strengthen that muscle or start to develop or strengthen the other side. So if you're a woman and your strength comes from the feminine principle, however you define that, like the goddess, right? The beingness, it might be good for you to start looking at your inner masculine self and start strengthening those energies in you. I don't mean going and looking out and trying to find men or masculine women. I mean finding it in your qualities. And the same thing if you're a man. Does your strength as a man come from your feminine strength or your masculine strength? So if you can tell already, Stormie, when I use the word masculine, feminine, I am in no way speaking about gender.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's right.
Just energetically. This is
just energetically, right? Exactly. And
we have to speak that way because we know
exactly
that energies can live in different forms.
Totally. Yeah. A lot. I mean, I've counseled. I've been really privileged to. God, I'm such a fortunate person. I've been privileged to sit with so many people who have that major question in their lives.
Sure.
Just a little side note, it just occurred to me. I also had the privilege of sitting with a woman who came up to me at the end of a lecture I did at a conference, and very matter-of-factly, with not a lot of hoopla or stress or energy on attachment, she said to me, "I'm a walk-in." She said, "The one you are speaking, the one that is speaking to you right now, was not born in this body." And like in my heart, I'm going, well, of course. In my head, I'm going, what? Huh? Like,
sure.
But in my heart, I would like, in my truth, I'm going, wow, like this has legitimacy for me.
Yeah. Yep.
So we did a couple readings. So that's just an example of what we think is really who we are.
Might not be.
Oh
yes, I'm a walk-in.
Yes.
Oh, and anyway, that's a whole nother talk. But
wow.
Yes, I remember when I walked out.
Wow. How old, Stormie?
I could step in. I was 25, and it
25.
was an immediate swap. Literally, the conversation was, "You can't because you'll kill us."
If you walk out.
If I stayed.
If you stayed.
Yeah.
It
was like, excuse me. Somebody else has got to walk in.
There was an us.
Oh, there's an us. Yeah. Oh, there was an us, and one of us had to go. It was a very right here conversation telling this one, "You have to go because you'll kill us."
Wow.
You just don't have it. You'll kill us. And the other one of me was ready and able to come in my life. It took 3 months, and my life was, you wouldn't have even known. You wouldn't have even known. Wow. Like it was just like a light changed. It was incredible. That's a whole nother talk. Like you could come back for that talk. That's a real trip.
I want to have the conversation with you. Here's why. When we have that conversation, Stormie, I want to tell you and your audience the story of the being that I met that requested an astrology readings. She was a 12-ensouled being. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about that and my experience and how they taught me astrology at a level that no human individual person could have ever.
Yeah. Oh, you got to come back for that talk because I'm right here. I'm so ready. I'm like, oh, I'm so ready. I have so much to say right now, but
Awesome. Okay. But
let's go
Mars,
back to the sky.
yes, back to the sky. So here's the deal, guys. Venus represents our inner feminine, okay, not gender. So don't think that Venus is strictly the category and the age under the aegis of women at all. Not so. Please don't do that, ladies. Please don't do that. Men need Venus, if not more than women do. Okay? So
Yeah.
Venus represents the feminine being, but with that being comes the material world and the material body, material relationships, which is why Venus correlates now on the chart. Now we're on the chart here with my primary values, my value system, what's sensual, what's yummy, what's disgusting, my relationship with money, and all of the projections that I put on money, which is really unfair, but money doesn't care. But we project all kinds of stuff on money, like independence, like self-esteem, like value. Wrong. Value comes before money does its thing for us. Okay. All this is learned from Venus on the chart. Venus in the sign, the house, the aspects, its relative strength or weakness, its dignity, etc. But then, when you get to Venus's relationship with the sun, now you start talking about the Venus phase. If there's one thing I want to leave everybody with this talk from today, Stormie, it's this. Natal Venus is your personal feminine self. Phasal Venus, meaning the natal relationship of Venus with the sun on the birth chart, represents your dharmic, D-H-A-R-M-I-C, your dharma feminine, what you are meant to do in yourselves, how you are most meant to contribute to a better world from embodying, embracing, and enlivening your personal Venus, your personal feminine. So at the base level, not base, at the you only level, there's the Venus in the sign house aspects and dignity on the chart. But then to get the dharmic Venus, meaning now that you've got that, what do you want to do with all this extra energy, extra love, that your gifts that are now more online, your generosity that is more strengthened? You find that you are much more selfless and able to let go of things than in the past. You were always holding on to everything. What do you want to do with all that extra energy? What do you want to do with all that extra room in your heart to support, to love, to heal, to grow, to foster, to create? That's the answer. That answer comes from your dharmic Venus, which comes from your natal Venus phase. So the phases of Venus, there are 13 of them. Here's the different part about this, guys, though. If you're listening to this, you know something about astrology. You might know your lunar phase, the phase of the moon that you were born in. How long, how big are each of those lunar phases? They're 45 degrees,
Sure.
each of them. But I want to respectfully inform everyone here that cycle of 360 degrees of the whole from new moon to new moon, that equal division, that's not natural to the Earth Moon relationship. That's not how the moon revolves around our Earth.
Right.
It was created, it was mathematically calculated to standardize things. The original lunar cycle was as varied, and the phases were as varied as the different cultures that were skywatching masters. Here's one that I found from pre-ancient Hellenistic Greek. Sometimes 11 and sometimes 13 different sized phases. So one of these lunar phases only happened in certain lunar cycles, and it lasted for about 12 hours.
Sure, that makes sense.
Other phases were longer. So that's where I'm coming from here. It's a sky base. It's actual, let's say, universal reality with these Venus phases. So your Venus phase, you want to find out if your Venus was invisible or visible, You want to find out if your Venus was before or after the sun in the zodiac. And you want to find out if your Venus was retrograde or direct. Those three factors are what you need. And then you need to study, not a lot, not like heavy duty book, but you need to start to understand literally the orbital movement of, here's the sun, Earth and Venus. Venus rotates faster than us. So Venus is sometimes seen to leave Earth behind, but then eventually comes back and catches Earth again. All this plays into the understanding of the Venus phase that you were born into. Okay, so here are the Venus phases: inception, gestation, birth, emergence, fullness, surrendering and discovery, immersion, immersion, transmutation, rebirth, remembering and embodiment, wholeness, completion, transition. Each of those phases describes an archetypal movement of the feminine principle in each of us at a collective consciousness level, not just a personal level.
Sure.
Okay, just repeating again, since this is new for probably a lot of us, Venus on your chart, sign, house, aspects, dignity, etc., is your personal feminine beingness. Venus in relationship to the sun, right, the source of light and life in our solar system, consciousness. Venus, that relationship, that spatial relationship between the two, that describes how you are meant to contribute your personal Venus to a better world, to better human beings, to evolution.
So this has just got me thinking.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll answer this offline, but so what happens, or what phase do we find her when she's out of bounds? And how?
Beautiful. Great question. She can be out of bounds. She can be out of bounds in any of her phases. Any of her phases she can be out of bounds.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, any phase she can go chaos, right? But at the same time, there are periods of time though, Stormie. I might have old research, I don't remember it, but there will be periods of time, like years of time, where it's not possible for her to be out of bounds there and there and there because of basically, again, the fact that Venus laps us.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So
that's going to be a whole nother video too. You just basically have to live on this channel, is what I'm saying. That's brilliant. Okay.
So she can be out of bounds anywhere.
Okay.
Okay. Likewise, she can be crossing the ecliptic anywhere in her phases. For example, guys, if you can just feel the vibration or feel the energy of a phase called wholeness versus a phase called transmutation, okay? That what we're describing there in the name of that phase, that's the movement of consciousness at a collective level that you were born being a kind of agent for. You were like this open crystal that became imprinted with the core source collective intelligence of that potential. Okay, so that's your phase. But now we put Venus in that phase, let's say on the ecliptic, right? On the ecliptic. Well, on the ecliptic could be max northern declination, max southern declination, but it will always be 0 latitude. So 0 latitude, now that becomes a whole new metric. Like, see, it opens up, God, it opens up. It's like, imagine this. Imagine you go to your doctor tomorrow and your doctor's saying, I don't know if you knew this, but you have something inside of you that I think you should learn more about. And you go, what's that? And they go, it's called a bladder. What? I know about a bladder. No, you don't really know. You know how to spell the word. You know it has something to do with urination and whatever, and it has certain meridians in the Chinese system, and it has certain correlations in the Ayurvedic system, etc. But you don't really know the bladder. You have to study for years to get to know the bladder, right? That's kind of like what this is. Like
more depth,
more intimacy. we start to become intimate with the planets, and especially in this case, like Venus. The more intimate we can be with our planets on our chart, sky and chart, the better version of ourselves we're going to be in terms of contributing to a better world. Now, here's the most challenging part. I don't care whether you're talking about your Venus Dharma, your Mars Dharma, your Jupiter Dharma, whatever. If we have very strong pictures about what we are here for, and those pictures we have stubbornly rigidified around in the death grip in our subconscious self. And now here comes this information, whether it's from me or from somewhere else, and it bounces again, it hits on this tight hold of who I am and what my purpose is. It's just gonna bounce off and not gonna affect. This is why the importance of the heart is so important. We need to cultivate the ability to be open, not a wimp, not gullible, the opposite of that, but what I call empoweredly vulnerable, empoweredly available to be wrong about ourselves. Like with a smile and a laugh and a, oh, did it again. Okay, let's see what I'm ready next now to learn according to universal intelligence or my own soul, right? Okay, so the Venus phase, that's what it correlates with. So other little tidbit of information. We have Venus phase returns. Everybody knows the Saturn return, the Jupiter returns, blah, blah, blah. Okay. There is a Venus phase return every 8 years of your life, very, very close to your birthday. So if you want to find out your relationship, your particular sensitivity or not to your Venus phase and the cycle that you were born in, go back in your life and start at age 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, blah, 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 go and look at each year and see 6 months on either side, maybe of the birthday, what was starting to change. I can't tell you, Stormie, how many times I have heard when I've told my clients to do this in real time in a reading, they go, oh my God, 24 was when I got married, and 32 was when I got divorced. Oh my God, that's where I lost all my money. Wow, that's where I inherited a bunch. Oh, that, classic Venus attributed areas of life get switched on, like intensified there, because something about our relationship with core values, our physical health in a certain sense, sensuality, sexuality, pleasure, right? Feeling the richness and the healing, if you will, that we get from having a rich social life. All the Venus ruled areas of life get switched on during those 8-year intervals. Yeah. So that's Venus. Okay, cool.
Kind of sense.
Mars. Mars is a whole different topic. Same idea. Natal Mars, sign house aspects, dignity tells you you're natal masculine. Not men. This is for women as equally as men. Okay, who you are in terms of an embodiment and expression of the pure divine masculine beauty and strength and power. Okay, Mars phase with the sun now is your masculine dharma. What you are meant to do in yourselves to contribute beyond yourself, selflessly, legacy-wise, with your masculine skills, abilities, gifts, grace, blessings. Okay? Mars phases. First of all, the Mars cycle is a totally different cycle. He has a whole different shape in how he moves. Totally different than Venus. One of the things I've done is I've looked at the phase the different phase systems and overlapping them, because then you get something very, very deep. I don't even have the words for it here. Very ancient, about the idea of marrying the masculine and the feminine within myself, not just in my heart or in my mind, but in my body, and especially marrying them in the places of my old wounds, traumas, fears that I still hold, places where I'm still stuck. Bringing Mars and Venus together, because Venus is the pure instinct of the feminine principle in astrology speak. Mars is the pure directive of the masculine principle in astrology speak. And it's like you bring them together and now you get Tantra, which has nothing to do with sex.
Sure. Like the
This
pure
is
healing vibration.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Tantra is the unifying of opposites. And that's what I have learned. I have come to learn how to describe my Mars Venus work, because there's a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different things I do with it. Overall, my Mars Venus work can just be said, I'm attempting to help myself and others unify my inherent contradictions, opposites, incongruities.
Sure.
And by the way, those incongruities don't have to be like I believe this, but I also believe that, and they don't meet. It could also be a vertical incongruity. Maybe in my higher self, I more relate with the angelic realm. And down here, I don't really care about anyone else but me. What? See, we can have both of those qualities to ourselves. I'm trying to, like, Stormie, I know this is just like a quick interview. I'm trying to pepper in these things just so people can have a real sense of not of my astrology, but also, where I come from when I'm mentoring someone, where I'm teaching someone. I'm not just trying to make you a good astrologer. I want you to find your gifts. And that takes a different commitment on the part of the mentor. It's easy for me to come up with great scenarios and meditations and techniques and practices and exercises and just keep working you until you just really, really become like a top astrologer. But it's a whole other thing to foster you to become a better version of yourself, right? Mars and Venus work, guys, together, that is the most direct path for becoming a better version of ourselves. That's still tangible. Another thing that we agree upon, Stormie, about the nodes, how important they are. The nodes are what our life force is all about in this life. But the nodes are not embodied. There's no physical node out there.
Yeah, that's real rough. That's rough for we humans.
Rough. It's rough to be human. I love that. I love that you got that. God, it's brilliant and a privilege, and it's
rough.
Wow, I got it. Okay, so that's why I focus so much on Mars, Venus, because they are embodied. They're actual planets. We can study them. And therefore, because they're embodied, just like we are on our embodied planet, Gaia, we can have more of a tangible relationship that we can identify things and work within ourselves. And once we do that with more and more of our planets, which is the sky astrology stuff too, the sky astrology takes it out of theory and archetype and puts it into embodiment. Basically these days, everybody, there's two kind of big picture ways that we're all going to evolve. Either we're going to grow through the principles of transcendence, which is going beyond our base nature, or we're going to evolve through the principle of embodiment, which is including our base nature and sitting in it and working to develop wisdom and strength and courage and non-attachment embodied, so that we start to outflow naturally, spontaneously, our wisdom that is there not just for us, but for others. So if we're raising a family, our bad days, when we have small children, our bad days, that's when the child is going to start to relate with itself differently, because mom and dad is having a bad day, and mom and dad might have just snapped at the kid. Well, the kid just discovered there's something called being snapped at. That might change the paradigm of the kid psychology, sociologically, for the rest of its life. So the better versions we can be of ourselves, the better versions, the more honest versions we're going to be supporting and helping other people without attachment.
Yeah. And I really feel like at this time, it's been the same. I don't think it's any special timing in the world, but certainly it's where we are now. And we move more to this Aquarian leadership kind of style that we've got going on. I think we're really called to this work, to the, I got to show up with all my good, bad, and indifferent and put it on the table and realize there's growth from there. And to just genuinely say it out loud. And more so than anything, I feel like this speaks to all of us in this professional capacities, right? Like you've gone on to be professional astrologers, accountants, whatever it is. And the space that we haven't, I don't think for a long time been able to be in is, I don't really know how to do that, or I need to know more about this. So I feel like that's precious to all of our communities at this time, is to say, I really need a brush up over here, or I didn't know that at all, and have that be okay.
Boy, celebrate it. Celebrate it. I'm telling you guys, I have like, there might be really experienced astrologers on the call here, watching this later or whatever, but probably not a lot. I've been doing this a long freaking time. I cannot describe to you the excitement just bristling out of every pore of my skin when I finish a reading with someone and I go downstairs out of my office and I tell my wife about it. I'm like, I just learned something from this client who asked this brilliant question of a question that I've never even thought to ask.
Right.
Like, and so one part of me is like slapping myself upside the head going, moron, why didn't you even think about that? And the other is like, great, okay, now I can start looking at it. Like, that's exciting to me. So it gets to be, it's not so much where the questions come from, are we asking the right ones?
Sure. And admitting when you don't have the answer.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. Admitting when you don't have the answer.
Which leaves a lot of room for celebration of our fellows, right? I don't really work with that, but I know Adam does. Why don't you ask Adam about that?
Precisely. I'm always reaching out to colleagues going, you always, you too?
Yeah, because I'm like, oh, not my special sauce. Let me send you over here.
Exactly. See, that's the way we grow together. That's the way we grow together.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. So Mars and Venus, we got to get those guys together. Plus, they're just running around chasing each other up there anyway. I love those two. But it's very Tauran of me, right? Like, I love their romance. Even when they're mad at each other, it's like, it's still good for us.
Yes. Okay. I've never done this before. Let's take this. Stormie, I love what you're saying. And I'm so inspired here. Everybody, listen to what Stormie just said. They're always chasing each other, or they're mad at each other. Okay, let's take that, a very human, intersubjective, social dynamic that we all go through. Let's find that in the sky. Here's Mars pissed off at Venus. Here's Venus. This is in our skies. Here's Venus. Here's Mars. So at that point, that's a conjunction. That's a meeting.
Yep.
That's where the masculine and the feminine are uniting together. Okay. Here's where Venus is pissed off at Mars. Mars, I don't want anything to do with you. I'm not even going to share the same bed with you. I'm going to sleep out in the pasture. I'm not even going to sleep in the same Airbnb as you. Okay. Passing in the night or the morning. Okay.
What happened there is Mars was running past Venus and she's like, I'm still talking. Right? I still have some things to say. And Venus is going by Mars and she's like, I'm not going to talk to you. And then he knows he's in trouble. She's not talking. I got problems.
And here's what Mars does. So here's what Mars does in that case. Retrogrades.
Yeah, he's like, no. I'm not doing it.
Here's the love affair. Here's the story. Here's the Stormie storybook romance. The two of them hang out, or the two of them are moving at roughly at about the same pace. I mean, look, on average, of course, Venus moves faster in our skies than Mars does. But there's periods where Mars is moving way faster than Venus.
Sure.
Okay. Oh, let me just, I don't know why, this proves to me that I'm still just a real nerd about all this astronomy stuff. Let me just say one other thing here. Do you know that for both of those planets, when Mars and Venus, this is independently, are direct motion, not retrograde. They are both retrograde. They are both direct and near the sun. Okay, so Venus is moving forward near the sun, give or take. Mars is moving forward near sun, near the sun. Both of those planets are at their fastest forward motion. And here's the freaking fascinating part. from Earth, they appear to us to be completely slow.
Oh yeah.
When Venus is direct near the sun, she is moving lightning fast if you track the actual speed. But in our skies, visually, what slowed her down? Why is she going in slow-mo?
Mm-hmm.
So check that out. I want you, like, people think about that. And that's oftentimes people who run their mouth, blah, 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 and they're not really there.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like that incongruity.
Mm-hmm.
We can see that in planets that appear really slow, but are actually moving really fast.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, here's the romance of Mars and Venus when they do this together. And then eventually Venus takes off and goes. So in other words, when they're retrograding back and forth and they're sharing, and there's more than one conjunction in the passage.
Yeah.
That's usually the romance. There's usually some healing also implied in that. It's not just some storybook romance. It really is like Mars has to hold space for her, or she has to hold space for him. And then then with that healing, then maybe they can come together, or maybe they come together in lovemaking first, and then the healing happens, whatever it is. And then they go on in continuing their journeys.
Yeah. Which is so, I mean, we think about the family structure, and we think about normal life and things like that. And that can be very much so how the household or how the friendship looks, whatever the relationship, we're going and going, going. And yes, okay, let's catch back up on that. And you know what I mean? And then
Exactly.
we get into the dance, and it's like, okay, hold on, we're both here. Let's talk. Let's do a little work here.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
hopefully you go on more full when you get past it, though. That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah. There's a lot of stories we can make of this. I mean, my whole book on Venus, it's pretty thick. It's 350 something pages. I made sure to really pack that with like descriptions of the phases that you can actually work with in your life, or even that will challenge you.
Sure.
Right.
Mm.
In some ways, Stormie, I certainly try to live by this. I'm certainly not great about it some of the time, and I pass this on to my students. One way to think about your life journey is less about who you are, because who you are, you're already born in that. You have that in spades. Now it's just a matter of removing the gauze and the filters and the blind spots. So it's like unlearning who you're not is oftentimes how I explain it to people. The more that you can undo your rigidified, cyclical ways of thinking and responding to things, the quicker you will wake up to the parts of yourself and what you're meant for, that you are next meant for. I can't tell you how many times I have counseled someone who has huge third eye opening or huge seven chakra opening. They really have big vision, but that vision is like 40 years away, or 10 years away. They're not even close to that now. So it's like, okay, we need to like put like a
Just a little
blindfold
Band-Aid.
on your upper chakras. Yeah. And just like start to like look at what's right here. That makes you more available to the now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And I love that idea, though, in this talk, to think about where your feminine embodiment is at, and then how you are being that, and then what you go do with that. I love that, because that's something, I mean, we could all go grab our charts right now and go, what am I being? And probably even looking at how that's different, as we've progressed, for sure. I mean, my Venus is in Aries, and for a long time I was like, I'm going to clonk you and bring you back here. But learning through phasing,
Yes.
to allow things to come to me.
Yes. And the sweetness of that receiving of the things to come, there's a sublime pleasure in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's a different way for me to be a Martian as well, in those qualities that are in Minor and Libra.
Right.
And I get to show up different when I don't have to beat you and drag you back to the cave.
Right on. Right on.
We're
Well
both
put.
having much more fun. No one's being drugged, no opportunities. So if you guys, as you're out there and you think about that, grab your charts, look at that. How is your Venusing and your being changed? And what does that even look like in those physical moments of how you're doing it out there? That's beautiful.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Oh man, Adam, thanks for coming over. This has
Oh,
been cool. I hope you enjoyed it.
I totally enjoyed it. I love your energy, Sora. It's so refreshing in the astrology world. It's really, I want you to keep going. Like we need more storminess out there. We do.
Well,
We do.
these are going to keep going until they're
Okay, good.
supposed to be something else, and we've already thought of like 5 other topics you can come back on, so I'm sure we'll meet and eat and greet again
Wonderful.
here and bring some more focus into the now that people can use immediately. So thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yes.
Be
All
well.
right, you guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next eat and greet, which will actually just be coming up on Wednesday, so enjoy the week and we will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.